Hi, I'm Liz Bramwell from Rustic Kitchen Boston, home of The Cooking Show. Each week, I host a live cooking show in our unique broadcast kitchen studio, right here in the restaurant. Spring is in the air. Today, I'm making a baked stuffed sole over a saffron orzo risotto.
Her smile, the brightest of summer skies. Her walk floats like the butterflies. Say cheers and toast to a beautiful girl. And I finally see what I was really meant to be. And all paths that led right to where I stand. And this is who I am.
Mike, these look absolutely fabulous. May I have one?
Of course.
Perfect. All right.
Liz, we gotta go.
Thanks, Mike.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming
Perfect.
your host, Elizabeth Bramwell.
Hi, guys. Hi. So before I get started, I do want to introduce to you my assistant. If you guys need anything, don't hesitate to ask, whether it be a fork, napkin, doggy bag, ride home, another glass of wine, anything of that nature. However, I do want you to give him the same round of applause that you guys gave to me, to my assistant, Pepe. Actually, what I'll be demonstrating for you this evening is a crab and asparagus stuffed sole. It's baked very simply. We're serving that over a saffron orzo risotto. All right, and then over the top of the fish is a limoncello beurre blanc. So there's absolutely no fat, no butter in your dinner this evening. It's completely and utterly underseasoned and tasteless. All right, it's going to be terrible. So let me start off with a happy Friday. Cheers to, first of all, it being Friday. Second of all, to friends and family. And last but never least, to the dinner we'll enjoy together this evening. Cheers. Cheers. Now, I do have two favors to ask all of you this evening. First of all, my mother paid $120,000 for my culinary education, so I encourage as many culinary questions as possible. I don't do relationship advice, although I think we're okay in here this evening. Ladies, there's three of you together. That must say something. Second favor I have to ask of all of you is I would love for you to taste your wine with each component of your dish this evening when you receive it. It's very important. I spent a lot of time drinking to pair this wine with your dinner, okay? So this is our 2010 Martin Kodak's Albarino. This is a medium but more so full-bodied white, okay? When you smell it, it smells very fruity, but when you taste it, the first thing on your palate, it's very kind of herbaceous and floral. How many of you drink wine religiously like myself? Absolutely fabulous. So this is what I like to refer to as a patio pounder, where you sit on the patio with your girlfriends and or guy friends and you pound bottles of wine like this. So let's all be cautious and have another sip. Delicious. All right. Okay, guys, so this show is in 4 parts. You have the stuffing, the rolling of the sole, the saffron orzo risotto, and of course, the limoncello beurre blanc. So let's get started. So, starting very simply with a nice hot pan. We're gonna saute some of the veg that's going into our stuffing, and then after it's finished, we're gonna get it into the refrigerator to cool so we can then roll them up.
Hey, I thought you said there wasn't any butter in it.
It's a blatant lie. Do you like the facade? That's how I get everyone to really shovel the food back, and then, when you get home, you just don't look at the scale, don't count the points, and everyone will be fine. So let's take another sip. Cheers to Emily for figuring out. Cheers. Absolutely.
How do you stay so thin?
This is genetics. I'll tell my mother you said thank you. 3 veggies I'm going to start in my pan very simply. I have 1 red onion, small diced, obviously peeled. I have 1 red bell pepper, small diced, and I have 3 ribs of celery, also small diced. And yes, if you're wondering, they are all washed before they're cut. All right. A lot of people forget to do that. My mom cuts fruit with the stickers on them all the time. Yes, Sarah.
Does it matter if you use yellow onions or red onions?
For this specific preparation, no, it doesn't. I'm using the red more so for color. But if you wanted to use a white onion, Spanish onion, anything of that nature, it definitely does not matter. Unless I come over, and then I'll be able to tell. So the first thing that I'm going to add to the pan is essentially 1 medium-sized red onion, skins off, and small dice. Okay? So 2 ribs of celery, small dice, into the pan. Okay. Also 1 red bell pepper, small diced, right into the pan as well. Okay. So what we're looking to do is kind of saute. We're not really looking to color anything. Not true caramelization, but we are looking to sweat everything out, bring out the natural sweetness in all of these vegetables so that they add to the flavor of our filling. In this other bowl right here, I'm going to put together my bread combination to kind of hold our stuffing together, because with any good stuffing, I should say, there's always a little bit of bread or some sort of a crumb or a cracker, something in there to kind of soak up extra moisture and hold everything together like the glue, so to speak. This is a 50-50 combination of panko and breadcrumb.
Wait, what is panko?
They are Japanese breadcrumbs, and they are white bread with the crust cut off, dried, and ground perfectly by tons of little tiny Japanese women. Yes. Oh, that would be horrible. I want to start a dumpling factory just so that I can have things like that occur around me. So I have a cup of panko, okay, and then I'm adding an equal part, so another cup's worth of a bread and cracker combination that we make here. It's delicious. It's seasoned perfectly, and there are tons of fresh herbs in it, just so you know. I'm going to stir my veggies right now, and all right, that looks pretty good. So first seasoning of the stuffing, just a little bit of salt and pepper, okay? And to our crumb, I'm going to add just a couple of things. They may seem kind of odd, but they genuinely make sense once you get them all together. 3/4 of a cup of mayonnaise, okay? I know, weird, but when you think about it, mayonnaise is just a combination of egg and oil seasoned perfectly, okay? I'm also going to add about we'll go with a 1/4 cup's worth of Dijon mustard. Dijon is delicious. Somebody please pass the Grey Poupon. I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon's worth of paprika. Okay, not very much. I heard a yes. I'm going to take that as a very enthusiastic. Give me an oh yeah for a teaspoon's worth of Old Bay. Yeah. I like that. How many of you have been drinking? Oh my God, so early. Okay, so mixing this kind of together, and I'm doing it very gently with a spatula at this point in time. Don't worry, don't be afraid. Yes, my hands will make it into this food. They've already touched each one of your dinners. Actually, we're all sharing this one dinner. So depending on how well you behave yourselves will depend on how much of the portion you get. And very quickly, I'm going to add about a 1/2 cup's worth of sherry wine. This is just a very simple deglazing process. Any of the little bits that get stuck to the bottom of the pan, this deglazing will help to pull it off. So we do want to cook this for about another minute or so. I do want to reduce the sherry just slightly, but I don't want my pan to end up completely dry.
Does sherry wine just add taste?
Sherry wine, besides adding flavor, adds a little bit of color, and it helps pull all the fond off the bottom of the pan. So at this point, I do want to get my veggies in the pan with that little bit of sherry wine that's left. I'm just going to shake off what's in here. That looks good. Okay. Last additions to this are, I already have some blanched asparagus here, sliced relatively thin. Okay, that's going to go in here. This is about a 1/2 bunch's worth. I'm putting in about a bunch of scallions worth, sliced on the thin side, both greens and whites. Okay. And then to this, I'm going to add 1 pound of lump crab meat. So when you go to the grocery store and you pick up one of those diesel-looking cans, it's exactly a pound. So this is going to get put in there, placed in the bowl. Okay. Yes. And then the last ingredient, which I find actually to be one of the more important ingredients, is juice and zest of 1 lemon. All right, so very quickly, just the zest. and then the juice.
Zesting.
Zesting.
Zesting is always a challenge.
Guys, is that a cheese grater or is that like a...
This is actually what you use when you go to the spa, when you get a pedicure. Look at your face, you're like, oh my god, that's terrible. Okay, this is a microplane. It comes in extra fine, fine, medium, and like a very large grit. And then it goes even larger when they become cheese graters. But you could definitely use this for cheese. Now, I'm just going to juice this very simply into my hand. If you are like my mom and you really don't like the idea of touching anything that you eat, then you can obviously juice into a separate bowl. So at this point, I am going to get a little involved with your food here. Okay? If you don't want to watch, you could always turn away. It's not a big deal. I'm very open like that, okay? Now, this is going into the refrigerator, okay? Because we want this to come down to room temperature or colder. It's very important. You never want to introduce a hot filling to a cold fish.
How many times do you wash your hands a day?
If it's like a 14-hour day, probably upwards of 100 because I start to get tired and I use washing my hands as an excuse to not work for a moment. But yeah, I mean, on a regular day, I would say between 30 and 50 times a day. So this is going to go into our refrigerator. That needs to chill to at least room temperature or below because that's where our fish is sitting. Okay?
Thank you, Pepe.
Let's get a cheers to Pepe.
Pen knife for you.
So I'm actually using global knives. They're actually a very versatile knife and they're good for both like restaurant use and home use. Since the blade is on the thinner side, it tends to stay sharp a lot longer. I'm actually really glad that you asked about, what kind of knives I have here, because I do have a kitchen tip that we put together on how to properly care for your knives. And actually this kitchen tip applies to globals. So how many of you guys, would everyone like to see it? Yes. Yeah? Okay, perfect. So pay attention to the TV. Hi, I'm Liz Bramwell from Rustic Kitchen Boston, and this week's cooking tip, how to care for your knives. Keep your knives away from any surface that may damage the blade. Don't put them in the junk drawer, don't put them in the dishwasher, and don't cut on surfaces made of ceramic or stone. Remember, always hand wash and dry your knives, use only wooden or plastic cutting boards, and store them in a butcher's block when you're not using them. I'll see you at Rustic Kitchen. What do you think, guys? So at this point, I do want to peel the stems of the artichokes. Once you peel the woody skin off of the outside of the stem, there is a very tender, fleshy piece of the artichoke underneath. Just want to make sure that you leave a little bit of the base of the artichoke on so that all of the petals don't fall off and float around in the water and create kind of a little, koi pond look in your kitchen. No, you know what? My grandmother used to push all the children into one area out on the back deck with Stop and Shop brown bags and about 50 pounds of corn. And they used to sit us down on the back deck, and they used to be like, oh my God, kids, this is so fun. You husk the corn, and you pull the hair out, and you pull the bottom off. And the 7 grandchildren would sit there and be like, yay! And it's just like excessive amounts of free child labor, husking corn. And then about 15 minutes in, it was usually myself and my cousin Katie that would figure out that it wasn't fun. And then we would disappear. And all the boys would sit there and just continue doing it. So I have a few cups of water. I'm only going to do 1 cup of orzo. And I want to add to the water saffron. It's going to season the water just slightly. It's also going to dye the water that kind of bright golden color that you're looking for so that when we cook our orzo in there, it takes on that nice golden hue, okay? So I have 2 at this point, flesh up sole fillets right here. Now, there is a Dover sole, which is European flatfish, and then there's the common sole, which is what we have here, in the United States. So a little bit of salt and pepper on the inside. And by now, my filling should be at room temperature. I'm just gonna pull like a nice portion out of here. Okay, so I'm gonna start at one end. I'm gonna put my filling somewhere around here. Now, I like to start at the so-called tail end. Since it is thinner, it's better for it to go on the inside. Since it's thinner, it cooks faster. Also, it doesn't end up looking translucent once it's cooked because you can't see it. So, rolling it up just as so. Okay, now let's say you end up with some fillets that are kind of wide versus long. This might be a little bit more of a difficult task. If you end up with something like that, you can always do a little seamstress job on the bottom. I usually use like a toothpick and I just in and out. It'll keep it together from pulling apart once it cooks. And these are gonna go into my pan right here. These are gonna cook at 400 degrees convection. That's what I'm saying. For those of you who are well behaved, you get a bigger portion. This is Pepe and I's dinner. The minute we leave here, everything I make goes right onto the back table, and he and I go out the back. We casually / speed walk over to the table and eat. Excuse me, Chief. Am I at the top? Okay. So this is going in. Ooh, it slid. You gonna watch me? See, everybody needs a Pepe because all I have to do is put the fish in the oven, and then my assistant watches it for me. Essentially, what I want to do with any pasta is drain it and strain it, but how can you tell when orzo is done cooking?
Throw it against the wall.
Okay, can I tell you a secret? Okay, so you do not throw orzo up against the wall. It goes everywhere, and it dries, and eventually it smells. So you don't want to do that. However, the best way to do it with any pasta is to taste it. My 1 cup of orzo has almost tripled into about 3 cups. So at this point in time, like any other pasta, you genuinely want to involve a little bit of oil if you're not going to use it right away. In this pan, I am going to start the rest of my vegetables for my orzo pasta. A little bit of butter right in the pan.
A little bit of butter.
Is it salted or not salted?
In restaurants and for most people at home, you should never use salted butter. 1 Spanish onion's worth small dice. This is going to go into the pan. Essentially, I'm just looking to sweat, not really looking for color. I just want to bring out the flavor in it while that is sweating out. I am going to take my artichokes and cut them up a little bit. I am a huge fan of big chunks of artichokes, especially if you took the time to peel them and cut them. People should definitely know that they're in there.
Did you actually have
Or
a
her.
course where they just put you in for a week cutting?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's called Knife Skills. We spend 3 weeks cutting, basically.
I just don't cook.
We That's awesome. Cheers. Spinach in the pan first. Why not? Okay. And I'm going to steal a little bit of the water from my artichokes to kind of add to my pan. Not necessarily to deglaze, but just to add a little water to it. Okay? At this point in time, I do want to add a little bit more butter. It's for you, Rich. All right, so my last ingredient to this is going to be my artichokes. Since they are already cooked, I do want them to fall apart just slightly. So at this point, I am going to turn my pan off, fold my artichokes into my warm orzo, and call it a day with my pasta. I'm going to demonstrate the limoncello beurre blanc that's over the top of your fish. All right. So just a tiny little bit of butter into this pan, about 2 tablespoons worth. 8 peppercorns in there. All right, I'm putting my 1 medium-sized shallot into the pan. Okay. I'm gonna put 2 bay leaves in here. All right, we're just gonna get this. Oh, those look beautiful. Thanks, Pet. Those are beautiful. So we're sweating our shallots, our peppercorns, our bay leaves. I have a half a cup's worth of limoncello here. And introducing that one little spark to the pan. All right, so I will turn my heat down on my pan just slightly. All right, and this is gonna take probably about 2 to 3 minutes to burn off, okay? All right. So the alcohol in my limoncello has burned off. I am gonna turn this down quite a bit. You know what, I'm just gonna turn it off and be courteous. Now I have about a pound's worth of room temperature butter right here, and I wanna start adding that to this pan, all right? All right, so limoncello is in, shallot is in, peppercorn is in, bay leaf is in. I am going to add at least a half a pound's worth into here, okay? Now the reason why I turn my heat off is because I don't want my sauce to break. Even though it's still hot, you know, butter has a tendency to separate into fat and milk. Now, let me put one more small tablespoon of butter in here. Okay. Okay, I'm adding about a cup's worth of heavy cream to this, and I want to reduce that by half. Now at this point, I'm going to add the zest and juice of 1 lemon to my sauce, and this can be added early on. All right, so very quickly, I do want to strain out all my other ingredients, okay? The butter and the limoncello, it's the important parts, okay? Everything else is just merely a flavoring agent. At this point, I do want to add a little bit of parsley to this, okay? Parsley being for color.
Good app.
All right, so on to plating, okay? So we have our orzo here. I could never have 4 children. I would tie them to things. I'm gonna go orzo right on the bottom here, and I wanna get a little bit of everything, okay? So I want some of my artichoke, I want my orzo, I want tomatoes, I want a little bit of spinach, I want it to look nice and bright and colorful, okay? So I'm just gonna pull my fish out of here. Now I do wanna nestle it kind of in the center, all right? Ooh, it's perfectly cooked, I can feel it. I'm so excited.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Dinner is gonna be exciting tonight. I do want to put some microgreens over the top.
Liz, what are microgreens?
What are microgreens? Oh, I'm so glad you asked, since I just garnished my plate with them. Microgreens are teeny tiny hydroponically grown herbs. So guys, this is our crab and asparagus stuffed sole.
Liz, this is the best sole I've ever had.
Cheers, Chris.
Those are the best socks I've ever seen.
Those are some of the best socks I've ever seen. So guys, I would absolutely love it if you would follow me on Facebook. If you go to the cooking show at Rustic Kitchen, their Facebook page, and like it, I would also love it if you would comment on our page, okay?
I would like to know where I can get this recipe from.
If you go online to rustickitchen.biz, if you go to our website, go to the cooking show tab, scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's a PDF file right there that has all of these recipes that I'll show you this evening, as well as pretty much every recipe I've ever done. Yes, just in case you want to, permanently borrow some ideas, make them your own. That's pretty much it. So guys, what do you think? What do you think of the show? That audience was absolutely awesome.
I thought it was
Are you hungry?
I am.
Give me a fork. Let's dig in. Oh. Perfect.
Right to where I stand, and this is who
Our next show is Summertime Picnic in the Park. Join us. You're gonna love it.